What's up, everybody? Editing Etchy here, jumping in before we start the episode because I messed up and did not record my own audio for this podcast episode. Fortunately, I didn't talk too much between the intro and the outro, just asking a couple questions here and there, so shouldn't be too bad. But if you see a lot of extra cuts and weird stuff visually going on like my camera during the episode, that is probably why. So I just wanted to point that out. Enjoy the episode. What's up, everybody? Welcome to an emergency episode of the Dead Draw Gaming Podcast. As always, I am your host, Etchy, and joining me are three players who did pretty darn well at Toronto Regionals this past weekend. First up, we have top 8 legend and first-time podcast guest, Christian LaBella. Christian, congrats. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on the stream.
Thank you for being here. Next up, we have top 11 legend, Michael Davidson. Michael, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Happy to get ASIM. Wish I could have got a little bit further, but never going to be mad about top 16.
And lastly, we're joined by Toronto Regional Senior Champion, Justin Templer. Justin, congratulations. How does it feel being a champion?
Thank you. It feels pretty good.
Awesome. So, Toronto Regionals just ended, and a lot of DDG members did very well at the event. I figured we'd just kind of highlight everyone's runs here, the deck choices you all made, because uniquely you all played different decks. And then we'll talk about those decks and their place in the meta going forward, as Drago seems like it will continue to dominate in San Antonio as well. Before we get into that, though, I have two quick announcements. First being that this is actually our last podcast episode for a bit. We're going to be going on holiday break, given that there won't be any tournaments to talk about. We'll definitely be back before San Antonio, though, so don't worry. Also, part 2 of our Worlds video will be going up on Friday. Very excited to show the footage I got, mostly highlighting Michael's top 8 Worlds finish. So definitely make sure you subscribe and check out that video when it drops on Friday, probably Friday morning. So yeah, let's focus on the 3 decks you all played, being Gardevoir, Charizard, and Regidrago. We can start with Senior Champion Justin. Justin, you played Charizard, which was the second most played deck in Masters as well. You ended up hitting fellow DDG teammate Carson Washer in the finals. Very sad team kill moment. Why don't you just go ahead and recap your run?
Okay, so I hit 3 Thorns back to back to back. I played the Canceling Cleanse, so like the matchup was fine. They were playing Devo, which was like a little bit scary, but yeah, I just like set up a Zard and like just knocked everything out. So.
And you like boss around. You left the ones alive that had the tools on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they can't Devo, so that's pretty cool. I hit 2 Dragos. Not a good matchup for sure, but I drew pretty good. Was able to get the first attack. So if I can do that and like set up, I think I'm in a pretty good spot to win. Then in asymmetrical. Or no, not asymmetrical. In top 8, I hit a Lugia. I won game 1. Game 2, they drew everything. They got the Water Ogre Paw, knock out both my Manders. Couldn't really do anything about it. And then game 3, I just went like unfair stamp, collapsed so they couldn't bench double Archeops and just like won the price shift from there. Top 4, I played against Gardevoir, so definitely a tough matchup. Lost game 1 because I didn't know about Devo. Game 2, my opponent bricked. And game 3 was like pretty close. I think it came down to a coin flip on Monkey Dory's attack. I had a boss at Gardevoir, and then I flipped heads, so I won that. And then finals, I hit Carson playing the Snorlax deck. He played one of the Ogre Pawns, so it was pretty tough for me to win. But game 2, he just couldn't like flute out anything. He just like kept whiffing, didn't really hit any good things off Sisters. So I managed to win game 2, and then game 3, time ran out, and I took the first prize.
Yeah, I was watching part of that game too. I think it came down to like a double Dusknoir situation, right? And you just had to wait until you drew the pieces you need, and he wasn't able to stop you, right?
Yeah, I had to well, he like pennied up his cornerstone, but if he didn't do that, I still think I win because I can go Thornton into my Charmander, then attach to it Dusknoir, Dusclops, and then attack. So the day before, I thought I was gonna play Pidgey Control. I was like testing it the whole day, but no one had Cloth built, so I wasn't like too sure how to play that matchup. So I just wanted to play a deck that like I knew how to play well, and I had the most games with Zard, so I just decided to play that.
Michael, I know you were thinking about playing Zard. What made you go away from that to playing Gardevoir instead?
I was just really confident in the Gardevoir deck that I ended up playing. I definitely thought Zard was a okay play, but I think it's definitely stronger in seniors where the best players are probably not all like automatically playing Drago. And I think in Masters, I thought our Guardiolus probably had a slightly better Drago matchup because I think Drago's probably more favored into Zard than it is into our Guardy deck. So was kind of okay with that matchup. I do think Zard is like still relatively well placed, but I think it was definitely a significantly better play into seniors than it was into masters.
Christian, how are you feeling about Zard's place in the meta in such a Regidrago dominant format?
Look, I was considering Zard for this event. I think Zard is really good. I think it's actually gonna be better like for next event because like we just saw like how many Dragos were in top cut? Like six?
I think, in
Six out
top
of eight in top cut. Usually when like this happens, people are kind of like drawn away from the deck. So I think like Drago, like even though it had 6 in top 8, it's gonna like go down in popularity. So this is gonna give like Zard like a little bit of an opening the next tournament. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Zard do like really well in San Antonio, like seeing like 1 or 2 in top 8, potentially even winning it. So I think it is really strong going into the next regional. I just don't know like which build is correct because like there are like 3 that are really dominant right now, like Trolley, Unfair Stamp, and Secret Box. So like I don't know which one's the best right now. I think I'm liking Trolley, but yeah, I'm not really too sure.
I don't know. I don't know if it's like fair to say that the Secret Box one is like dominating. I do like we see Jackson Ford
It
specifically
is,
doing well
yeah,
with it.
it's mainly
With
just
it, like
Jackson.
multiple events, but I don't see like anyone else like picking it up and doing well. And that's not to say it's like bad. I am a fan of the trolley build, but I still think the unfair stamp. No, I mean it's probably pretty close between unfair stamp and trolley, which one has like the most merit. But I think it's more between those two, and then Jackson can do well with his like secret box.
Yeah.
I guess I was a little bit surprised to see that none of them did. I don't think there was any in top 16, which I would have predicted one, but maybe after like seeing Drago converted like abnormally well, so it's not too surprising to see that none were doing well at the top tables because it was basically I actually didn't hit any Drago before cut, but it was not I hit some in day one, but in day two I didn't hit any Drago before cut, but for the most part, it seemed very difficult to dodge Drago in day two. And as Zard, that's something that, in order to make a deep run, you either had to draw very well against them or, for the most part, dodge them.
All right, so let's just go ahead and have Christian just go over his run and talk about everything that happened with that.
Yeah, round 1, I played against the Bolt. I think Bolt's a fine matchup. I think the matchup's not even that bad for Drago. Although it was a little scary because I went first and I went attached Drago pass, so I barely survived getting donk. And then my op just whiffed a vessel, or else I would have just lost. But yeah, I was able to get through that one. Next round, hit a Goldango with a Togekiss. Both games came down to a Togekiss flip, but luckily they flipped tails both times, so won that one. Then round 3, I hit my first Drago mirror of the day. Not really much to say about that one. I just won. I don't know how I won game 2. Game 2, I priced double Drago V, Tina, and Gudra. So yeah, somehow I won that one. Round 4, I hit Gedimer round 4 in the Drago mirror. I feel like I got pretty unlucky during the set. Game 1, I beat him. Game 2, I essentially just got donked. And then game 3, so I need 1 E switch, and then I basically like have like a checkmate board with the B star like still available. So like I research Teal Dance twice, and I have 7 cards left in the deck, and I have 2 energy switches. I just had to hit 1, and like I whiffed. So like the odds like weren't insanely high for me to hit an energy switch, but it was like high enough to like just get it like in my favor. So like I whiffed the energy switch and ended up losing that set. The round after that, I hit a Guardy. I think that matchup's pretty favored. I don't play Jamming Tower, however, so I couldn't do anything like that. I did play a Vacuum, so that worked pretty much the same and did the same thing. So I beat the Guardy. Round 6, hit another Bolt. I actually donked this Bolt one of the games, so that was pretty funny. Then round 7, I hit a Lugia. I don't play Sinnoh or any Lugia techs. I didn't expect that many Lugia. So this is definitely a bad matchup for me. So I just wanted to tie out of this game. So like game 1, he knocked out my only Drago in play turn 2. So like the match, like that game was essentially over. Like I couldn't win, but I wanted to like make him take all 6 prizes, and I'm like not scoop too early because like I want to potentially win game 2, then get a tie out of that game because I'm just like my deck. If Lugia set up, I just could not beat Lugia. So yeah, I just got obliterated game 1. Game 2, my opponent misplaced their legacy energy, so I was able to capitalize on that, and I won game 2. And since I made them like play out and take all 6 prizes game 1, we didn't have enough time for game 3, which sucks because my opponent was bricking game 3, and I was gonna like I had game on board, but we didn't have enough time to finish game 3, so I kind of punished myself by doing that game 1. So I tied a Lugia, which I'm still happy with. Like that matchup is really bad, so I'll take what I can get. Then the round after that, I hit the Zard. So they're only like most Zard lists are playing 5 fires, and they did a play where they had like 4 fires in play and didn't have a Pidgeot established, and my board was like very underdeveloped. Like I didn't have a lot going on, but like since they committed like all their like most of their energies and didn't have a Pidgeot in play, I like capitalized on that and like was able to like stall a Rotom in the active for like 3 turns to like set up my board. So I was able to beat the Zard. Then round 9, I hit my 3rd Drago mirror of the tournament so far. I won that one. Just basic Drago mirror stuff, nothing all too interesting. Round 10, hit my 4th Drago mirror. I hit Vance. So I think this game, yeah, nothing too interesting. I got the first attack off, and it was like a Gudra, like rolling iron kill on like I think it was Mew. So I was just like in a really dominant position from there, with V-Star available still. So it was like really hard for him to come back at all. And then game 2, he actually did something that I think is incorrect. He opted to go first in the Drago mirror. And I think you're supposed to go second because like he chose to go first, and then going second, I just pushed Cleffa, set up my board more. Was able to like fill my hand with 7, and then he wasn't able to like do anything on his turn. I think he just like pushed his Cleffa back, like wasn't able to do much going first. So yeah, me going second and getting that Cleffa and like doing everything I like could do going second, like playing a supporter. I was able to the turn after like get like a what I do. I think I pulted or like I got an attack off, and I was just like I hit on tempo from there. Round 11, I hit Cyrus on Block Lax. Block is like not like is I was not feeling good about going to the Block Lax matchup. I play Cologne, switch Prime Catcher, so those were like my 3 outs. But they did get very unlucky during our set because game 1 they played 4 flutes, and essentially they didn't hit anything off any of them. So like I just like had nothing bad on board to like be brought up, so it's like able to like win that one pretty easily. Then game 2, they managed to get a Fez, and they brought the Fez in the active, but I didn't take any prizes. They only played 1 boss, so I didn't take any prizes, and I just like Fez everything for 100, got like everything into Kyurem range, then like Kyurem and like won in like 2 turns from there. So we got very lucky into that one. The flutes were pretty kind to me for once. Then round 12, I was on stream against Stefan playing Palkia. I played really bad during all my string games this weekend. I don't play well with white noise. So just my brain like just stops working completely. So, but like luckily for me, the matchup's pretty favored. So it didn't end up mattering too much. And yeah, I had a couple Kyurem attacks, and the game just went in my favor. Then after that win, I was able to ID into asymmetrical cut. So I was feeling pretty good about my chances of winning there. I was a little scared. Like matchups are basically essentially all Drago mirror, like all Dragos. Then like, we have Vince on Bolt, Kieran who was on Lugia, and Hassan, who was playing Pidgeot Control. I'm fine with hitting Bolt or Pidgeot Control, but I just did not want to hit Kieran. So luckily I was able to dodge Kieran and ace him. I hit my friend Grant in ace him, and essentially I lost game 1. It was close. He won the coin flip, so I went first, and I went like Fez my active pass. Like my hand, I couldn't do anything in my hand. I had an Iona for next turn though, so yeah, he basically got a whole first turn on me, but I was able to like Iono into like the perfect second turn hand. Like I got like Teal Mask, Drago, Cleffa, Energy. So I was just like I Cleffa for 7, my board was just like insane. So I was able to do that, but unfortunately like I lost the turn. I just fell behind the prize race. And I had a legacy start and I burned 2 super rods. So if I didn't burn, like if I had 1 still left, I think I could have won that game. But just like burning 2 super rods off that just essentially killed me that game. Then the next game I opted to go second, and then I was just able to get the first like big attack off after using Cleffa, and I basically swung the tempo in my favor. I was able to take it from there. Game 3, he got pretty unlucky game 3. So game 3, his hand it was like pretty dead, but he opened Squawk, so he had to Squawk, so it's fine. But his hand consisted of like an energy switch and a couple of energies, and he prized 1 E-switch. So like he didn't want to like squawk this E-switch away. He wants to get value out of it, but he also had Pokestop. So he Pokestopped, tried to hit like a Teal Mask or an Auto Teal Mask off it, so he can like utilize that E-switch before he has to squawk his hand. But he Pokestops into another E-switch, so he just like from there had to squawk 2 E-switches away, and he just had to motivate for 20 and like put the energies in play, because like he didn't have enough energy switches to like attack me next turn unless he wanted to use V-Star, which is like really bad. So like he just left a Squawk active for me, and I went first. Me going first like basically gave me like a good enough turn to get the attack off on Squawk. So like get the first 2 prizes. But like my prizes were Cleffa, Prime Catcher, Tina, and Gudra. So like I couldn't Gudra kill the Squawk. I couldn't Tina, kill anything else. So like I had to pull spread damage, set everything up for like Radzar numbers. That's the only way I take a 2 prize knockout, something like that. But like luckily he was not able to do anything to me, like anything crucial to me next turn. So I was just able to Dragon Bolt, spread damage, and set up like a checkmate board to like win the next turn. So I got pretty lucky in that game. Then after that was top 8. I hit Vince. That was on stream. Not play good on stream, but game one was pretty crazy. I just felt like my whole draws, everything just wasn't going like right for me. I couldn't find any of my Ionos until like my opponent got to 1. Like when my opponent got to 1, like everything just felt losing, because I was down double rod. Like I was down like almost everything. I have my Razar on board, but if my Razar dies, like he's at 1 prize card, he wins the game anyway. But like I have like no recovery, nothing left. Like all my resources are down. However, since I couldn't find Iono earlier, I still had 3 in my deck because I played 3, and he had 1 prize. So I'm like, okay, there's no Fez on board. Pokestop wasn't on board either. There's a Ninja on board, I think. Like he's not guaranteed to draw an energy. So like we have a small chance here. So I don't know him the first time to 1. I swing and kill him with the Radzard. He can't do anything. He has like an energy on a bolt, and he just bursts roars, right? So I'm like, okay, I have my switch. I can reset this Radzard, and I have another Iono. So if we survive this turn, we can potentially win the game. So I hit him again with Iono and switch, and go down to 2. Draws his 1 card. It's not good. But then I don't know why, but he benches a bundle and like switch cards into the bundle and like passes. He also has a Pokestop in place, so he has a couple cards in his hand, so I still want to Iono him. But now that he switched into the bundle, like if you looked at my discard, you would have saw him down like switch, prime catcher, and like a lot of E switches. So my Razard couldn't move. Like I just could not attack this turn. So now that the bundle's in the active, he needs like an extra piece to get the knockout next turn. So I was feeling pretty confident if I was able to like Iono him again. So I have all my bosses left. So after Iono, I just like win the game next turn. Like and it's guaranteed I draw a boss. Like my deck is really thin. Even if the Iono's me, I think it's like pretty guaranteed I draw my boss. So just Iono, and like since like the bundle's trapped in the active, I don't think you had anything anyway, but like it just made it like harder for him to win with the bundle in the active. So just didn't get anything, and I like made a 5 prize deficit comeback. It's kind of crazy. I don't know how that happened, but then yeah, the next games, I don't even remember what happened in the next games. I just remember he just 2-2-2'd me the whole time, and I tried to like Razard him, but always had the guess. Game 3 came down to a Pokemon catcher. Can't feel too bad though, because he had 2, so it wasn't 50-50. He was in favor of hitting it, so I did try my best. I didn't play my best on stream, but I tried. I am happy with the run overall. I do feel like maybe if the game was on stream, could have went my way. Something else could have happened, but I can't complain. That's basically how my run went. That's what happened. Yeah.
So why did you decide to play Regidrago for this tournament in the first place?
So ever since Kyurem and Fez dropped for Worlds, I've been playing Regidrago since. I just thought like the deck was just broken. Like it just needed like an extra push, like with the Kyurem and Fez as like additional support. I don't know how Miloslav did not play Fez for LASC. That card is like insanely broken. Like I've been using that card a little too much. But basically, ever since then, that's the only thing I've been playing. I've played like it might be even in thousands of games on ladder. I just like boot it up and run games with it. Like I run games with a lot of deck. My win percentage with Drago was like significantly higher. Like my win percentage with like everything else. And then at like the regionals, like I was consistently day 2ing. I didn't get like good placements in day 2, but it was like slowly getting better each time, which I wasn't really satisfied with. But like I did see improvements, and like this deck was like one of the decks I was seeing like a bit of improvements with like each time. Like I was just comfortable playing this deck. Like I have like notes here, like taking notes on like each games with this deck, and like I have like hundreds of games logged, and like I do like 50 going first while changing like the list every couple of times going first. I log another 50 where I go second, changing this list each time. I log like I beat this matchup like 70% of the time going first, compared to like only like 60% of the time going second. So I'm like, okay, I think I off seconded this. Then I look over it and I'm like, okay, I win more games against like the meta decks going first, so I should like blind call first, stuff like that. Then I also like have like this thing where like I see like which list like it just gives me like the most dead hands first. So I'm like, okay, maybe we add like this card and like take this out. Like I just nitpick like every couple games switching cards and stuff, seeing like which gives me the highest win percentage. So I just have like an insane amount of games with Drago, like alternating cards. So I feel like compared to like everything else in the meta, this is like the deck I know like in and out more than anything else. Like so.
Can you show the notebook?
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. So this is like one. So I have like it's like I show the list here that I swapped, and like down here is like game 1, game 2. I have like some things that like if something crucial happened during the game, like I write it down, or something interesting. The blue highlighted things are the hands that are like unplayable. I just like essentially got donked. So if I highlighted blue, that means like the loss was I just couldn't play the game or my opponent couldn't play the game. So it's kind of like if my opponent can play the game, I just usually don't count the statistic. Like it's worthy to note, but like if I can't play the game, then I usually like switch my list a bit, see like how consistent the next list is. Then I get like every couple pages there's like a line, like this orange line. That's like when I alternate from blind offing first to blind offing second. so I'm able to like get games in, see like which matches I want to opt first into, which matches I want to opt second into, see which like I have a higher win percentage into. So it's basically like I just log a bunch of stuff, a bunch of alternating things, and then basically all my decisions are just like off these statistics. Like, oh, I have like 80%, like I win like 80% of my games with this card in my list, or like with these cards in my list, like I win like 80 going first in this matchup, or like buying going first. So like that's like basically how I got to it, just like this whole notebook. So like yeah, I just felt comfortable on the deck because like I just have like a bunch of like notes on this. So that's basically how I came to the conclusion on like my playing Drago and playing this list. It's like running a bunch of games over. Very inspired. Yeah, very inspired by Henry Chow and Liam Halliburton. Those are like my two inspirations when it comes to this. But yeah.
I wanted to ask you about Alolan Executor EX, which did win the regional, but you decided to not play it. Could you speak on just why you made that decision?
Yeah, I didn't end up playing it because like, okay, the games I did have it in, I found that like it was good into like the block, like the stall decks, like that play Cornerstone Mimikyu. And then it was also decent. It was good into like Bolt to get around the charms and stuff. But to like play Alone Executor, I cut like I only play one Dragapult if I do that. I had two in my list, but I only play one. I ended up like determining that like, okay, I'm not hitting that many like block decks or like bolts to like justify this card being the list. And I'm pricing my Dragapult in too many matches where like I need to use Dragapult. So I'm like, I think I'd rather play two bolts, just make sure I have it in the deck, than like have this Along Executor card in. Because I just didn't use it like at all outside of those matchups. Like I saw like on stream like Cal using it in like mirror to like flip tails and stuff. But like those scenarios like almost like never come up to me for me. I just never found myself using that attack much outside of like very like low percentage of like meta decks. Like I just couldn't just like justify putting it in over like a second Dragapult. I just felt like if I price Dragapult, I just don't win half the games I should win.
What about you, Michael? What do you think about the egg?
I think the egg is like decent. I think it's not like that important to play. It's like okay, but I mean I don't know. I think if I wasn't gonna like play a fifth attacker, I'd probably just play like either like Halucha or another consistency card. I really like the top 32 lists that Caleb and Andrew played. I think if I played Drago, it would have been one of those lists. One of those was our Sacramento list that Andrew got top 16 with. And then Andrew cut the capturing room that was in our list for Halucha. And I think those lists are a little bit different where we have counter catcher in there and we're trying to kind of play from behind a little bit more, which I guess Drago is not like typically doing that. But I think, in my opinion, like you can win enough games where you prize Pult that I think I would rather like instead of playing a second Pult, I would rather just like have another option. But I do think Pult is like one of your most important attackers, so like there's a reason why the deck like historically has played two at least before this format for the most part.
What are your thoughts on, I guess, the evolution of Drago in terms of play rate? We saw even with the 5 and top 8 at Sacramento, it didn't like explode in play rate, kind of went down like you were saying earlier. But just what do you think is going to happen with it going into San Antonio?
Yeah, I think the play rate of Drago will like remain around the same. Like it definitely will not be like 6 out of 8 decks in top 8. Like I feel like people are just gonna play like decks that like statistically have a favorable matchup with Drago. Like I wouldn't be surprised if like we saw Lugia dominate again in like San Antonio. Like because the Lugia Drago matchup is pretty like Lugia sided, I'd say. So I wouldn't be surprised if like we just see like um Lugia just like skyrocket and like play, and then just like Drago's like not making that many incut, where like a bunch of like these like counter decks Drago like Lugia and like I guess you can say like Bolt and like all the stuff like that just like be in the top cut.
Yeah, I would say I wouldn't be surprised if we saw probably like 3 or 4. I think a lot of the issues with like the quote unquote Drago counter decks is one, their matchup into Drago isn't even that good. And two, like you have to still be able to beat other matchups. And I think really the only deck that has like playable matchups outside of Drago and is favored into Drago is probably Lugia. But Lugia has a lot of its own issues to begin with. So it's really difficult to counter Drago, which I think we are seeing with it consistently doing so well.
Yeah, I think so. Like all the top players are playing it. I'm pretty sure it's gonna get more popular. I wouldn't be surprised if they're 6 in top 8 again.
So I guess we can shift over to Gardevoir now and Michael's top 16/asymmetric cut run. Michael played Gardevoir EX, and obviously, if you're playing Gardevoir EX, you must have felt that even playing the slower version of Gardevoir that doesn't have a necessarily good Regidrago matchup, you knew there would be a lot of Regidrago, and you still were comfortable playing it. Do you want to speak about that a little bit, and also just recap your run in general?
I think especially against like not top players, like I think I would probably say I'm favored into Drago, especially if they didn't know about Mawile. It, like basically would I mean, I'm not letting them, but they're kind of using their resources. If they go for their V Star and they don't take their switches back, the game just like ends on the spot. So that was like a really interesting option that I used a couple times. I actually used it on stream, which I thought was really cool because I think Caleb was in a pretty good spot that game if I didn't have like a way to trap him. I think I like tunnel visioned on it game 3. I made like a really, really bad play of Mawiling the Squawk ability while he still had V-Star, so that just lets him set up basically guaranteed checkmate. There were so many other plays I could have done, but I think like I just like really did not plan my turn out properly. I was not expecting him off my stamp to go research, E-Switch, Prime Catcher Cologne without using the V-Star. It could have been even worse because he also drew Rod Nestball, and he just didn't bench another Drago V, which I think he knows was a mistake. Because I think if he just like guarantees that he has a V Star there, I'm not ever in like a great spot. But he gave me like a chance to win without rebenching another Drago. What I really wanted to hit on my last turn of the game was like Turo up Fez, Charm Drifloon, but it's like almost an impossible play. So I don't even think I should have even went for it. It would have been nice to have an Iono on that last turn, but we only played 3 and I was down 2, and I don't think I had Palpad in hand yet. So it was also like very difficult to disrupt him. So I think the play that I almost had to go for was Turo, my Fez, because that's going to be my easiest loose con, and then just Mind Bend his active. And I think if I do that, I definitely have like a chance to win. But to go like more into my further matchups, that was my 5th Drago of the tournament. I hit all 4 before that were in day 1, so I didn't hit any in day 2. I beat 3 out of 4, so I went 3-1 in the matchup. And I lost to Makani Tran. I think he played the matchup really well. Game 1, I discarded Fez, and it ended, and I think I had an opportunity to rot it back, and it ended up coming down. He went for like a Cologne Prime play as well. And I just like wasn't able to move my Manaphy, and so I couldn't put on any pressure after that, and I just lost. Game 2, I did this a couple times versus Drago where I would Monkey Dory, kill Cleffa during their turn, and then I have to promote a 2-prizer, and I would hit into the 2-prizer. And I did that versus him, and he just forgot that like he could use Fez after that, so he ended up burning V-Star, and he just couldn't make any good plays and just scooped. We had a Gents, game 3. I thought I had like a really good start. He had a really, really subpar opening, but he was able to go boss, kill a Curlia turn 2 that I evoed with Noivern, and then I use Refinement the next turn, and I just draw nothing. So I have to like pass again. He doesn't kill my Curlia, so I'm able to. He takes another knockout though. I'm able to use another Refinement. I draw Arvin, so I can get Stamp. I also could have grabbed Ultra Ball, but I think it's like really risky because I wouldn't have any more Curlias in place. So I just think I'll take the Stamp. I can draw Fez. I have a few outs, but off the Stamp, I just basically draw nothing. And then I just get too far behind. I have like a chance to win because he's down V-Star, but by the end, it's almost impossible, and I end up skipping him on the gents. And then, but versus my other 3 Dragos, I hit Chris Franco, and I don't think he played I think he played fine, but he just drew pretty subpar. My other 2 Dragos, I think I was able to win a game against each with Mawile, and then the other game they just had a slower start. And I was able, with Manaphy, I was just able to kind of develop my board. And one of them didn't actually play Cologne, so that matchup felt really easy. I think, so one thing that a lot of people just like assume is that you want to put Klefki immediately into the active versus Drago, which I don't think is bad. It's one of the merits to going first, but what I found is that consistently, if I was doing that, having Klefki on the board is a free Cologne for them. So it just if they can get around the initial Klefki, or if they can motivate into it so that they don't even need their abilities that much. Since we don't play Candy, we can't punish the motivate, and they was still a lot of times set up regardless. They can still play a supporter. They play a decent amount of those, so it's not like you're just auto breaking them with Klefki. And Klefki would always just end up being a huge liability on the board. So a lot of us that played the deck, which was me, Benny, Josh Frank, and Henry Chow, were the main 4 that worked on the list. And we just decided that we wanted to stop insta pushing Klefki, just focus more on getting Manaphy down, setting up our board, because we thought there's so many lines we can take, and a lot of them will still end up winning even without pushing Klefki to try to slow them down. In terms of my other matchups, I think they were really good. I hit a Bolt round 1. I won a game with Mawile in that matchup, and then the other game, I lost game 1. It was mainly down to my last 6 cards, I had all 3 Ionos, so that was a little bit unfortunate. But then I was able to win the next 2. I tied a Thorns Polt. I think I kind of underestimated their deck, but game 1 he hit turn 1 attack with Radiant Alakazam into I stamp him, he draws Arven, then he draws Crispin Polt the turn after, and then I gust up, or I use my abilities, I set up a Gardevoir EX, and I gust up Iron Thorns, and I hit it for 190 and move 30 with Monkey, and then he just has raw Turo, and I just got a little bit too far behind it. It still ended up being really close, and he had to top deck Psychic for game, but he had a few outs, so I wasn't that surprised. But then I was able to just set up double Monkey game 2, and I think that matchup's really good, and I ended up beating the next Thorns Bolt that I hit. I beat 2 Laxes. One of them, I prized double Bravery Charm game 1, so I scooped that one pretty quick. Against Lax, you can put Bravery Charm on Ralts, put 8 energies on Ralts, and then Curlia your Ralts. So then you get to establish a perfect board against them, and you force them to take prizes so that you Iono them to lower. So I did that game 2, and you basically had no way to win. Game 3, I opened Fez, and he turn 1 fluted Ninja, but he was playing the Rotom build, so I was able to just attack with Fez and start sniping for prizes, and that was fast enough and enough pressure to allow me to set up a good board and win the game. We actually were gonna tie, but he played a last minute Zerosic, just I think not really thinking about consequences, but I had one more Psychic in my hand, and the Zerosic allowed me to discard Psychic and then Screamtail for game, so that was really fortunate. I also hit a Cloth. Day 1 was my other non-Drago matchup. Game 1 I opened Manaphy. I had a pretty strong hand too, but I just get donked, so a little bit unfortunate there. But game 2, I get Klefki in the active, and I set up my board, and the matchup's free. Game 3, I have a pretty slow start, and they get kind of far ahead, but Klefki's just so strong in that matchup. Your prize trades are generally so good. They can't really do much once you establish double Monkey, so I was able to win that one, even though despite the donk game 1, that one actually went to time. But I was able to win in turns. My next lax was against Aiden Koos, who was actually playing a very similar list to the Snorlax list that we worked on that Carson ended up getting second to Justin with. But he cut the handheld fans, which are really important in the Guardy matchup. Game 1, I just set up a really good board with no liabilities, and he just scooped, which may have been too early since he's probably wants to play for a tie, but he scooped within the first 10 minutes. Game 2, I think I I didn't really like understand how the double cornerstone loop could actually work. So I think I used like all my resources and all my outs to like establish like a really good board. But it just like allowed him to gust up Klefki enough times that I wouldn't have been able to win. But I was able to 1-0 him. I like the way my strategy works, like if he is not playing like super fast turns, like I just have to take so many turns because I'm just refining away all my liabilities and like trying to set up a perfect turn. So the match just goes like extremely long if I end up actually doing the strategy. So I was able to beat Koos. Next, I hit Reagan. I opened Klefki game 1 and game 3. Game 1, it just like fully bricked him, so that was really nice. Game 2, I was not able to bench Manaphy, and he was able to go turn 2 Ogerpon, boss kill my only 2 Curlios. It still ended up being pretty close, but I prize Stamp in my last 3, and I couldn't draw my last Iona, so I wasn't able to disrupt his hand, and he just had basically guaranteed game. And then game 3, I went first. I was able to bench a Ralts. So then turn 2, I was able to Evo out 2 more Curlias so that even if he had the boss Ogerpon, which I didn't expect him to have under Klefki, but I knew it was possible. But even if he had that, I would still be able to have a Gardevoir EX for the next turn, which he actually did end up having. So that was really scary. But I was able to like gust his Archeops, and off all my disruption, he wasn't able to draw very well. He flipped a few bad aromas, so not really able to draw out of my disruption. And then I had like a cool play where I have a Lugia with 250, and I need to take 3 prizes that turn. So the Lugia has 250, and I move damage off it. And in my last 3 prizes, I'd Scream Tail Heavy Ball, but I knew because I had those 2, if I take 2 prizes, I'm guaranteed to take it. So I Monkey Dory, take 2 prizes off that Lugia, and then I just Scream Tail. I think it was the last Archeops for game. After that, I hit Henry Chow in the same 57 mirror, I think. And he's the one that got me on the deck, kind of encouraged me to play it. So was not really looking forward to verse him in mirror. I don't think he's ever lost a Guardian mirror in his life. So I did win game 1, not through any skill. He prized triple Ralts. So as soon as I benched 2 Ralts and played an Arvin, he didn't think... I mean, I still think he maybe had a chance, but he didn't think he had a reasonable chance to win. So he just basically scooped really quick. Game 2, so that the mirror is like really interesting because you don't really want to break the deadlock. You end up losing a lot of time. But I had double monkey in play, so I decided, okay, at some point I should probably, I maybe need to break the lock, and I'll still have 4 prizes left. The play that I end up doing, so if he doesn't stamp me and has to Iona me, I still have a decent amount of resources to work with, and I at least keep a Curly in play. So what I ended up doing is I Monkey Doried 6 damage counters, and then I turret up Monkey and reattached the 3rd Dark because we played 3 Dark Energy, so I was able to take 2 prizes in 1 turn. But off his Iono, I just ended up drawing basically nothing, and he was able to counter catcher both of my Curlias in play 2 turns in a row, and I had Fez and he didn't, so I had like a few more draw outs, but he basically was in full control of the game after that. And then we went by that. There was like 8 minutes left for game 3. We both agreed that the only way someone would win the set is if someone fully bricked, so we didn't really want to risk that, and we knew that X1-2 was basically locked for cut, so we thought we would just both win their next round, and we knew our bracket was also pretty decent. After that, I ended up hitting Pidgeot Control, which is actually the second time this season that I've hit Pidgeot Control on the win and into top cut. And both times I had a very favorable matchup into it. I think I definitely mismanaged my board game 1, but I was still able to win. He said he should have went for a Defiance Vest play, which would have kept his Pidgeot mostly out of range, and I think that's true. But he was able to like Iono me, and I just like couldn't find a Guardy EX, so he was able to Devo my Guardy EX that he like hit into with Ursaluna, and then kill my 2 Curlies over the next 2 turns, which I don't really know how that like happened, but I just like didn't have. I mean, he Iono me to low, so it's not like super unrealistic. But then game 2, I just played like way more cautious with my board, and I just like I was able to turn 2 Scream Tail his Pidgey because he didn't bench one going first, and I just locked him out of Pidgeot for the rest of the game. As he did get it into play with Thornton, but he had to Thornton a damaged Mimikyu, so I just attached Bravery Charm to Screamtail, moved some damage to it, and just killed the Pidgeot as soon as he got it into play. And after that, the game's basically over because we played Turbo Palpad, so there's never like a real trapping strat. And then I hit Caleb Gedimer in ASIM. Yeah, the stream rematch. Game 1, like I said, I got to Mawile him. Game 2, I was getting Deja Vu because I drew a completely unplayable hand again, which is the same thing that happened in Game 2 in Louisville. And I got Deja Vu Game 3 again because I think I made a really bad play. Now, I don't think it was anywhere near as bad as the play that I made in Louisville because that was just like scooping the game. But I mean, it was almost as bad, but I was just in like a much worse spot in this position. Whereas in Louisville, I maybe was favored to win, but I think he definitely got a little bit lucky to off my stamp to hit like every single piece that he needed. I don't think it was that unrealistic, but he also didn't have Fez in play at the time, so I didn't think it was super likely for him to hit it, but I didn't really have a plan for if he did, which I think if I could kind of have planned out my next turn, if I had like a little bit more experience in the matchup going into the tournament, if I could have planned out my next turn a little better, I think I would have been able to respond and not make such a losing play into him.
I want to talk a little bit about the Mawile because that was a unique inclusion for this list. It wasn't in previous like Henry Chow kind of list before. Do you want to just speak about its role in the Drago matchup? We kind of covered it already, but in that matchup and also in general in other matchups as well.
Yeah, so Mawile is kind of just there to allow you to win games that you really normally otherwise wouldn't win. So for Drago, usually when you're using Mawile, they'll be really far ahead, but if they're down both their switch cards and they have Squawk in play, there's like a few things that they can have. Squawk, Cleffa. If they have those in play, then they have no way to move them. If they have Squawk, you just bench Monkey Dory, and then they also can't put enough damage into play, so you will just win. Whereas otherwise, you probably wouldn't win those games because they're so far ahead, usually. Versus Bolt, it's kind of a similar thing. They play like 2 switch cards and 1 prime, so if they use them early, even if they get like far enough ahead where you don't think you would win, because if they're down those switch cards, they'll have Ninja, Squawk, something that you can trap most likely, and you can kind of seal a game there. It's really good into Goldango as well because that's another matchup where, especially with Togekiss, they can kind of get ahead, but they have like plenty of things for you to trap. Manaphy just gets looped with Monkey. Ninja, they can't put enough energies on in time to actually deal with Mawile, especially if you can Mawile recover, even if they do kill your Mawile. So that's one. Another really important thing that I didn't hit any Zard, and I think Henry only hit 1. But against Zard, a really important play for us was being able to Mawile the Pidgeot, because even if they can like attach to Pidgeot and then attack, kill our Mawile, it is a way to kill Pidgeot, kind of like save your stamp. You don't always kill it because they can turn it out of play, but if they're turning their Pidgeot, they're not making a strong play that turn, and their board's going to be really weak. So, and then by that point, maybe you can get double Monkey, so even if they rebench Pidgey, you can just kill it during your turn. So it just like allows you more time when a lot of times they might just like outpace you, and it allows you to much better play around Lost Vacuum by not being forced to put Bravery Charm in play. Henry only ended up playing 1 Bravery Charm, and he still obviously did very well with it. I think that is probably a reasonable cut to make, but I just didn't feel comfortable. I didn't know enough of the lines as much, and I thought that second Bravery Charm came up a fair amount, and I thought Lax would actually be pretty popular, so I think the second Bravery Charm was pretty fair inclusion. Benny also got top 32 with the same list as me, and Josh Frank, our local, also he lost his winning into top 16, I believe. No, yeah, I think yeah, he could have made top 16, but he prized Monkey Dory Heavy Ball in his last game, or in his last 2 prizes in game 1 of Gardevoir Mirror, and then he just got 1-0'd, which is pretty unfortunate, but not too surprising for Gardevoir Mirror, especially if game 1 goes long. Yeah, me and Henry both ended up losing to Drago and Cut, which is something we were worried about. We knew like as we got further in the tournament, we would be versing better and better Drago players, but we still don't think the matchup is too bad. And I think like if I had more experience in the matchup, I think there's a much better chance I would have won that game and maybe gone further into the tournament. But I didn't have a ton of. I mean, I've played a ton of games with Guardy, so it wasn't like a steep learning curve for me, but I didn't have a ton of games with this specific list, so there definitely was stuff I could have done better throughout the tournament, but still really happy with the run. My first like deep run with Guardy. I mean, it's my first time playing Guardy since rotation, and my first deep run with Guardy in like a really long time, so pretty happy. And one thing I want to say, like playing this deck, like every round, like this is like the best deck that I felt like I played for an event in like a long time. Like I felt like I just had like everything. No matter like what my opponents were playing, I felt like I had a pretty good chance going into the round. Whereas with Drago against like some of the more like suspect matchups, I would be like a little bit more worried. But this Guardy deck like felt really good, and a lot of that is down to Henry Chow. So got to shout out him.
And then for Justin and Christian, how do you feel about the Mawile going forward in this meta? I guess there's less of a surprise factor now. Do you think it will still be really strong going forward in Gardevoir?
I think it's still gonna be pretty good. Charizard can like attach an energy to Pidgeot to play around it. Besides that, I think it's gonna be pretty good.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's like it's a good conclusion. Like yeah, I think Mawile is still like even though Henry, Michael, Josh and Benny like all had deep runs with Mawile, I think it's still gonna catch a lot of people off guard. And yeah, I think like even the top players know about it. Like sometimes like you're in a situation where like say you're playing Drago and like you need to burn like Zard against Gardevoir for some reason. They're like put in a position where like, oh, I need these 2 cards, but oh, I milled my switch card. If I don't get this back, not these 2 cards, like they pay Mawile, like they're gonna get into a lot of those like situations where they can't like decisions are just like really tough, and like they like sometimes like like gotta play around Mawile, but sometimes they just can't play around Mawile. So yeah.
So I guess now, given that it seems like we're going to be in a pretty Regidrago dominant format for the rest of this format, do you still feel confident in playing Gardevoir despite being technically a slightly unfavored deck?
Yeah, I think our list is a really good starting point. I think maybe there's like a sweet spot between me and Henry's lists.
What were the 3-card differences between you and Henry's list?
So I had Pheasantipity, second Super Rod, and second Bravery Charm. He had 2 Night Stretchers and Moonlit Hill over those 3 cards. And I do think that his list probably had a better Drago matchup. The second Bravery Charm isn't too important, whereas the Moonlit Hill can allow you to create a clean Guardy attacker with only 1 Monkey in play, which can come up a lot. And it like lets you play around a lot of the damage that they might be trying to checkmate your board with. So I think Hill's really good in the Drago matchup, but I thought if my Drago opponents weren't good, I would just beat them, which I still believe that for the most part. And I thought I had like I thought Charm was like pretty good into the Drago matchup regardless, which I don't think is necessarily wrong. So not like disappointed to have not played the list, but I guess I would probably start with Henry's list. So if you're thinking about playing the deck, and I would just say to get a lot of practice with it, because I don't think this is like the hardest that Guardy's ever been, and I think a lot of your matchups are relatively straightforward, but I would still recommend like a fair amount of practice if you're thinking about bringing the deck.
Yeah, I guess on that note, the last thing I wanted to say as we're wrapping up here is, we have like over a month before San Antonio Regionals. If there is one deck you think our viewers should just lock in and focus on for this next month, what deck do you think that should be?
I think Regidrago is probably the best pick right now. It's definitely the best deck, and matchups are pretty solid for it.
Yeah, I agree with Justin. Like I'm biased. I'm gonna say Drago, but it's also like not even like learn it to like play for yourself. Like learn it. So like if you're not gonna play it, just like know what your opponent who's playing Drago can do on their turn. Just like understand how the deck works, and like you can like you'll see like more outs you can like play around, and like just like how to get yourself out of like some situations. Like you'll just understand like the matchup more, like whatever deck you're playing.
Yeah, and I'm gonna sound like a broken record here, but if you have the time to like dedicate to one deck, I would almost always recommend to dedicate it to Drago. I mean, I do want to give a shout to Guardy because I think you also have a lot of good matchups if you can practice enough. But if you're solely dedicating to one deck to practice before San Antonio, I would definitely recommend Drago.
All right, so looking forward to 20% plus Regidrago at San Antonio. And I think that's going to be it for this episode of the Dead Draw Gaming Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube. Again, we'll have the Worlds Part 2 video going up on Friday, and we will not be doing another podcast episode until we get closer to San Antonio Regionals. I know there are other regionals before that, but it just kind of depends on scheduling stuff. So we'll figure it out, and we'll probably be live with another episode before then. So yeah, I guess we'll do shout outs. Christian, any shout outs?
Yeah, shout out DDG, you know. Also want to shout out Endgame for the sleeves. Also want to shout out the 5-stack. I want to shout out Lucas, Grant, and my friend Michael. I did play like a lot of games with Drago against them, like in person. So it's nice to get in-person testing with them. So shout out them. Yeah, thank you.
Shout out Memo.
Shout out Caleb and Andrew for also getting top. Like, shout out everyone on DDG for like doing so well at this event that it was like hard to pick to go on the podcast. But shout out Caleb and Andrew for 32, Benny for 32, Carson for getting second with our lax deck. Shout out FCBC sleeves. I've been using them a lot recently, and they're really nice. And shout out DDG.
Shout out DDG indeed. Again, shout out to CutterTap as well. Check out cuttertap.com. As for myself, you can follow me on Twitter at EtchyOK. I'll probably post there when we get closer to San Antonio what the deal is going to be for the next podcast episode in terms of when it's going to go up. But yeah, thank you for listening. Happy holidays, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.